For those who don't know about Murf, what do we do? So we are a content creation platform. We provide studio quality voiceovers with our own AI models. We have proprietary tech on this, state-of-art models that we've built in-house. It allows you to have these voiceovers added to your presentations, your courses. L&D is a big industry vertical for us. We also do a lot of content localization, primarily focusing on video localization at the moment. And it has all the bells and whistles you can imagine what a new age video localization tool should look like. You're going to have speaker similarity, it's going to be the same person speaking all languages, you're going to have state-of-art translation, lip sync, background preservation. So it's like you would never believe that that was originally recorded in one language. So we have all of that ongoing. I'll give some of the demos there. We are today used by over 6 million users worldwide, and our presence is in over 180 countries. 300 plus of Forbes 2000 enterprises use us today. We've been in business for about 5 years, and we've been recognized as one of the fastest growing products by G2, other new sites that you might be familiar with. With that background, I think I'd like to start on why we think this is an important topic to talk about, and what are the trends in this field. One of the things that we are observing worldwide, and we placed a lot of stats on the screen to showcase how the world is changing. And the first thing we see is the global nature of businesses. If you look at the multinational enterprises within US itself, today they employ upwards of 44 million workers worldwide, and 1/3 of them actually reside outside of the United States. Another aspect to look at is the workforce itself. Post-pandemic, we've all seen teams go remote, and then a latest survey has projected as high as 80% of organizations today have some sort of remote operations going on, as high as 27% are completely remote. Another perspective is diversity. As high as 70% of organizations have cited that they have DEI as a strategic priority. Now, how does this all tie back to what we're trying to talk about today? To content creation, how does it change the lives of L&D professionals? Is what we're going to see in the next slide. What the diversity and the decentralization means is your content still needs to be locally relevant. If your audience is sitting in a different geography, they speak different languages, there are accent differences, you want your content to still be specific to the audience, but you still want to be consistent because you're a single firm, you have a product that's selling in multiple geographies, you don't want to lose sight on that consistency. So that brings in new sort of challenges. The L&D teams themselves today are distributed. Your co-worker might be sitting in a different geography working for their own local L&D requirements, and you have to still collaborate across the globe. So these are some of the challenges that we have noticed and we're trying to solve for. So I'll summarize the barriers that we're going to speak about today into 5 big talking points. And I hope all of you have experienced some of these challenges in your works, in your professional lives so far. The first one is the barrier is creating at scale. We want to create content, but we want to be able to scale it as well. You want to be quick at it, you want to use less amount of resources, you want to be efficient at it. That's a given. By barriers of reach, I mean the ability to relate in a different geography, in a different setting to a different set of audience. And that's a barrier we have noticed as well within our customer base. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Barriers of engagement, that's not new. That predates the AI era. That's the key focus for L&D professionals to have their content be engaging. You want your audience to actually achieve the learning objectives that were set out. But AI is here to help with that as well. The fourth is a barrier of consistency. I spoke a little bit about it. Being consistent across geographies, but also consistent across time. The content that you've created today is definitely dynamic. 2 years down the line, a couple of months down the line, in fact, you definitely are going to go back and edit that content. And that's a very common ask that we've had from all our customers. They want it to be super easy to modify the content that they've created today. And how do you stay consistent? Employees change, settings change, the entire vision of the company changes, but you want to be consistent still with your product, with your messaging. And we're going to talk a little bit about how AI is helping there. The fifth one is a slightly nuanced topic. AI has sort of like increased the demands of compliance, and we'll talk a little bit about why that's the case and what's so special about AI that sort of forces us to think about compliance in a much bigger way than perhaps we were before AI had become so mainstream. Just to get a poll on what the audience thinks, I request you guys to just answer this one question with this QR code and then look at the results. We've done a similar survey with our existing customer base as well. We'll try to match, see if the audience demographic sort of matches. The question in this poll is, which of the content barriers you actually find the most in your professional lives? All right, so far we're seeing consistency win. Scaling is definitely a challenge. It's amazing how stats always line up wherever you go. All right, we've had our inputs in this. We're going to look at what this looks like within our clientele. Not too different. Not too different. So this is a poll of 125 customers that was run on our product. As you can see, scaling is top of mind. Engagement is a big one, and consistency is the next. So these are important ones. Let's dive right into the first one. Scaling your content. So we tried to dig a little bit deeper into what professionals really think is the reason it doesn't scale for them. They're able to create something great, something that's engaging, but doesn't scale with time, it doesn't scale with people, it doesn't scale across geographies. What are the reasons? And the biggest reason that people cite, 67% of them in fact say, is just time, is just budgets, is just the headcount, we are resource crunched. And 20% of them said, maybe it's skill gap, maybe our professionals aren't as experienced, maybe they have skill gaps in one domain, maybe they're good at writing skills, but they're not so great at multimedia, they can't really create videos, there are always gaps. My premise here is that AI is here to help in both these aspects. We've already seen how AI sparks innovation. We already have the ChatGPTs of the world suggest new ideas, spark new content ideas, and sort of remove the blank slate problem, right? You don't want to start with a blank screen. You have something up and running for you as soon as you start. And that's your AI helping you with sparking new ideas, new innovations. Workflow and productivity is the answer to the resource crunch. You have to think about AI today as a pool of versatile junior creators, right? You have your interns, you have your newbies coming in. Think of AI as just another pool of people that's working for you. Each one of them adept at its own area of work. So you have a separate AI for your image creation, you have something else going on for your voiceover creation, you could have something for optimizing your text. You have all these tools in your kitty now, and you have to think of them as resources. That's the answer. That's the answer to be more efficient, to scale better. And we've had our customers, like we have Jason from Baptist Health, who saw quick returns, in fact, as soon as they onboarded and felt that they could prototype much faster. The voiceovers were automatic, you're not relying. Most of the voiceovers in the industry before AI became mainstream was either the L&D professional doing it themselves, if they are decent at it, or engaging with a voiceover actor, which is really painful. If you want to edit 5 years down the line, you're not going to find that person. Or they just don't do it because it's hard. But none of them need to be a barrier anymore. Just to prove how much of this is really real, there's immense adoption of this. These are stats from our website. Just last year, 18 million minutes of voiceovers were created on our platform. And that's just us, several other players as well, obviously. And that's more than any content streaming platform that you would have come across. People are creating content much more than the professionals are today. And that's real. And on average, when we surveyed our clientele, 70% of them, 70% cost reductions were average across the board for enterprises. When they switched over from their existing modes of creating these. So the adoption is real. So I just want to play a clip from one of our customers. We met at actually ATD conference, just to give a sense of what their perspective is.
My name is Alyssa. I work for the DTCC. We're a financial services company, and our team currently uses Murf AI for all of our e-learning, compliance, and regulatory curriculum. We've got nothing but amazing feedback across the company. Everyone loves the diverse range of voices that we have. And we just love the versatility of it. We're learning something new every day. We're seeing new features always being released. We have our favorite voices. We like Hugo who's a British voice. We like Hugo a lot. Hazel's another great British voice that we enjoyed as well. So it's fun getting to know the different dialects and different avatars that get to use the program, and it's made our work so much more efficient, fast, and effective. It's easy for us to go in, change a bit of audio, put it back into the training, and it's just helped us so much with everything. So yeah, we've had a great time with Murf AI. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We've seen this more than once. People relate really to voices, they know their names, they relate so much to them. In fact, one more who was mentioned this somewhere down the slides. We'll come back to that. The second one that we spoke a little bit about is the barrier of reach. You can think of language as a barrier. You don't speak, say, Spanish. You want to present to your Spanish audience. Whatever may be the differences. But you can also think of it as an opportunity to really connect with your audience. And now it's just easy. You don't actually have to be a polyglot anymore. So I just want to conduct a quick poll. Amongst the audience, how many languages are you guys creating content today in? Give you a sense of, are you already doing it? Or is it something that you want to do, but it hasn't picked up? All right, let me jump to results. Let's see if we got some inputs. All right, we've got a bunch of people in 2 to 5 languages creating content already in that. Yeah, okay. I bet that the number of 2 to 5 is actually a conservative number. You're probably not doing it for all your clientele. You're probably going with the top, maybe 20% bucket of people who are speaking that language. Because most multinational companies, when they go multinational, they need much more than that. But the message here is that you don't need to be afraid of that anymore. Yeah, in case you promised that you were a polyglot, you could still live with that lie. Because now you could use all these tools at your disposal without being an expert. And even if you want an expert opinion, Murf, for example, provides you the option to go to expert, check your outputs, ensure that they are suitable, are relatable in that geography. You could take a second opinion as well. But the first output itself is pretty incredible, usable in most contexts, unless there's something difficult about the content. It works out of the box. Today, 38% of companies are creating at least in 2 languages within the US. And even within English, you've seen a lot of people trying to localize it with accents. The British accent, you've got Australia are the big ones, and then you could go deeper as well. We have voice actors within US, separate states of US. You could pick and choose. You want a southern accent, you could go for that. It really depends where your audience today sits. Yeah, and multi-native voices is our answer to this. I'm going to play a short clip which demonstrates what that means.
Mesdames et messieurs, welcome aboard Air Murf Paris to Barcelona flight. We'll be serving paella, gazpacho and ratatouille. Bon voyage!
So that was not just promotional, that was actually from the studio. You could actually select a portion of your text and change the language that you want that word or phrase to be spoken in. And it's more common than you can imagine. It's really common. We always use borrowed words, which we want to probably be very authentic in the accent for. We have French words going around in English all the time. But there's a very specific enterprise use case where this comes out to be really handy. And that's if you're a multinational company. You have a product or you're offering, or maybe a brand itself has a pronunciation that's not even possible in the other language. There are lots of examples. We've had clients of all sorts. I'll give you an example. The brand Colgate. Can French people really say Colgate the way Americans say Colgate? They don't, and it's going to change. But you don't want a brand to keep switching how it sounds in every geography, right? And it happens all the time. With this technology, by the way, it's state of art, I bet it doesn't exist in any tools that you've ever used. You can seamlessly switch locales, be consistent with your brand names, and it works on all languages that we support. Any of our voices can speak any of the languages. Here's one more example, which talks a little bit more about accents.
Hey, it's nice and sunny here in New York.
Well, the London sky is overcast all the time.
Melbourne's weather's a bit bonkers today. Sunshine 1 second, then it's pelting down.
We can't get respite from the heat in New Delhi.
In Edinburgh, a bit of sunshine, but mostly just that good old Scottish drizzle.
Created using Murf voices.
Alright, so you've got all the diversity you need that you could put right in. But then there's a new product that I spoke a little bit about in my introduction, which is Murf AI. This goes beyond. This is for content that's been already shot. It's for production quality videos that you already have in one language, and you want them in 10 other languages. Of course, you don't want to spend again to shoot it again in another language. And localization, if you've gone to an agency or any other organization who does this traditionally, you know the pain that it causes, you know the time it takes, and you know the amount they charge. All of that's now possible with the click of a button. You could take a video today and dub it in 10 languages within 10 minutes. And if you want Hollywood level of accuracy in translation, you could get humans on top of it, fix it to the last T for you, right within the tool. So it's all packaged as a service for you without having to speak to a single person, just with click of buttons. We've dubbed a video for you. I just want to play
I'll
that.
start by adjusting the pace and pitch of the word I. Now, let's play it back in Murf's voice.
Ich passe zunächst das Tempo und die Tonhöhe des Wortes Ich an. Spielen wir den Satz jetzt in Murfs Stimme ab. Comenzaré ajustando el ritmo y el tono de la palabra yo. Ahora vamos a reproducirlo en la voz de Murf.
This is actually a video we shot for our own promotion. I thought, why not dub it? So we dubbed it in 3 languages for this demonstration. You could go up to 10, and we're adding new languages every quarter. The third one, again, generally rated very high as an area of concern. How do I make my content engaging? Again, we dug a little bit deeper into what's the most effective way that people are making their content engaging today. And storytelling is a no-brainer. People have known storytelling is an important element of captivating people, right? People's attention. And that's what the survey said. You have 74% people who said they can retain information better if there's a story to it, right? And what's a better way to tell a story with a narrator who's relevant, who's local to you, who really understands the context of what's being said, and really relatable to you, right? So you want that AI narrator in your content telling the story for you. Majority of people have obviously asked for video-based content as they're obviously a lot more engaging than plain text. These are all known facts. What I'm trying to introduce here is the idea of a relatable storyteller. And that's a quote actually from one of our G2 reviews. We actually go online and check that out. And that's very relatable to me, because we've had a lot of our customers speak about our voices in a similar tone, right? I would actually like to read that out for you, the second part of it. This is me and Eddie recorded many hours of narrated articles for a tour guide application. Eddie is smart, educated, funny. I imagine him in life much as Colin Firth. And that's the same reaction you expect from your customers, right? When your courses are being narrated for you, you want your customers to feel relatable. You want to connect with them. Another way we think engagement goes up is when your delivery is right. And we've worked really hard to pull in all the features so that your content gets created exactly how you imagined it. Delivery in speech is as important as the content itself. And we have state-of-the-art techniques now available within our product that you can use right away to achieve those outcomes. The first one that's mentioned is say it my way. What this allows you to do is actually do the narration yourself, but let the AI voice copy it. It will copy every nuance of the emphasis, the right amount of stress you want to put on a certain word. You have very specific needs on how something needs to be said. You could just do it for the voice, and the voice will copy. And we stretched that idea all the way to saying, well, if it can copy me, what if I rap? Would that start singing? We'll try that. You could try as well.
Record your style in your own way. Change how you speak, it'll obey. And with a flair, what do you say? Say it my way, that's the Murf way.
Yeah, and that's just one way, one of the ways you could do this. You have a bunch of tooling which allow you to be, if you don't want to have your own voice trying to do this, there are several UI-based tooling as well available to you to fix things exactly how you imagine my narrator is going to speak this out loud. You could fix all of them. There's another one which is around PowerPoint. Now you could use all these features right within PowerPoint. The entire tool now exists right within PowerPoint, allowing you to narrate your slides for you.
Hello, this is Murf Power PowerPoint, an all-in-one solution for adding voiceovers to your slides. It instantly transforms speaker notes into voiceovers.
When you export a PowerPoint presentation, you could export in 4K resolution right from PowerPoint. What you get is high quality voiceovers directly transformed into high quality video for you. Get your slides in place, get your text and your structure in place, put your speaker notes, get the narration going, export it as a 4K resolution video. There you go. Video creation no more needs sophisticated tools, you don't need to buy much. It's all cheap and quick. And anyone can really do this. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need any audio skills. We're going to jump into barriers of consistency and how we solve for that. This is a trend we're seeing across the board. And this is speaking of the L&D teams themselves. The L&D teams, the professionals today are more decentralized. Compared to 2020 and 23, we're seeing all organizations becoming more hybrid, becoming more decentralized. that just increases the burden of consistency. How do you have team in different geographies, yet they're all producing content? It seems like it's the same company, not two different companies. The key is to have decentralized teams. That's efficient. That's been proven that it's a very efficient use of utilization of the resources. You get the right people in the right geographies who understand the audience in that place. That's an efficient way of use of resources. But you want centralized platforms. The centralized platforms is the answer to your needs of consistency. And one of the ways we achieve this within Murf Studio is with collaborative tools. And that's like any other collaborative tool that you work with in the past. You get to edit the project together. You created a project in English. You could easily, with a click of a button, create the same project in 5 languages, assign each of those languages to one of your teammates in a different geography. They work back on it. You get to see what they did. Did they change anything substantial from the original content that was created? Work collaboratively, assign roles to each other, have your reviewers, have your content creators tagged, and then there you go. That's your output. You could present it to people, you could share it with your management right from the tool. That's one sense of consistency. There's another one. One thing to note here is we call it multi-native. That sounds like a new word. That's like a made-up word. And the reason we made it up is there isn't a word which describes this well. The closest word is multilingual, right? I mean, you've heard of multilingual people. People who can speak more than 1 languages. But generally what that means is you have one primary language and the others are secondary, right? You're not even native to all languages. You can't be by definition of nativeness. But that's not true for these voices. And I claim that because the bar we have for something we call multi-native is really high. Something is labeled as multi-native within our tool only if, in a blind study, native speakers cannot distinguish a multi-native voice from an authentic native voice. That's the bar we have kept for labeling something as native. So this voice, the same voice that you have in 10 languages, is going to sound native in all 10 of them. That's when it becomes a multi-native voice. And that's a sense of consistency that you get in your courses. If you're creating in multiple languages, you want the same voice. You want the voice that your firm has picked. You want to sound the same across geographies. And you get that right out of the box. This is another one of those features that is state of art. I guarantee you it doesn't exist outside this tool today in production. This kind of consistency, this amount of nativeness is something that they've built over years of research. Let me quickly show how that sounds.
Final boarding call for Flight 589 to New York. Please proceed to Gate 12 for immediate boarding. Letzter Aufruf zum Einsteigen für Flug 589 nach New York. Bitte begeben Sie sich umgehend zu Gate 12 zum sofortigen Einsteigen. Última llamada de embarque para el vuelo 589 con destino a Nueva York. Por favor, diríjase a la puerta 12 para embarcar inmediatamente.
Same voice, all languages. There's another aspect of consistency, and that's editability. Consistency across time. When you make edits, this is the biggest pain point we've heard why people switch to AI voices. Biggest pain point is, what if I have to make an edit? Even if you were doing voiceovers yourself, it's a pain. You gotta go back, you gotta have the same recording setup, it has to sound the same, and it's just a lot of work. And having a voice have to do it again, years down the line, who knows, their voice changes over years, in fact. So that's always been a pain point that AI voices have solved, and it's one of the biggest selling pitch why people prefer for future editability, and that's the consistency that you really need. Because you can't have one chapter and something else sounding like something completely different, another course chapter is like, sounds like 3 years back. So that's another thing that we facilitate. Last, not the least important, is compliance. And it's something that's cropped up a lot with AI becoming so mainstream. I bet as learning professionals, we don't think a lot about it. Probably we think about compliance as a purchasing process. But I think I would like to urge you guys to actually think deeply about it, because you don't want to put your firms at risk. And there are two flavors of the kind of compliance risks that AI has brought into light. One of them is training on your data. That's generally the big one, and it's largely solvable. A lot of companies will sign contracts with you, tell you will not train on your data. That's easy. The other one, which is harder to recognize, to figure out, and to care about, is the data that goes into the models today, and how much of it is copyright free. How much of the training data that is used in these models is legit? How do you know that the content that you created from these AI tools is not something that will put your company at risk? A company at risk for copyright claims. That's a hard one to judge. How do you figure out whether, I mean, that's true for anything you use. I mean, for text, for video, for audio, any AI tool that you're using today, you're on that risk. And we solve, just to sort of ease our customers, our solution to this is simple. You don't have to take our word for it. We just give you indemnity, because we know for a fact that we have solid contracts with our voice actors. All of the data that we use is ethically sourced. We're very cognizant of it, and the company was built for enterprises. That's something that you want to actually pay a lot of attention to when you're picking your AI solution provider. This is a hard one to gauge, and you'll only know down the line that you've been working a lot with that tool and producing all the content that you have. And then what if it's not commercializable? What if it's just producing something that's for broadcast, right? Anything that you put out there, internal is probably still fine, not so much risk, but for any external content, you need to be really sure what the IP, where the IP comes from. Are there any claims on it? And then there's the classic security clearances that you need, which I think you'll see a lot of companies do provide them, and we have them as well. You've got your SOC 2 and ISO verifications. And it's something that you really need to look at when you're purchasing for an enterprise, compared to if you're buying for your personal use case, probably don't get as much. Alright, so that's sort of a summary of 5 things we talked a little bit about. We spoke about the scale and thinking of AI as a versatile pool of junior creators. And we spoke a little bit about reach. We spoke a little bit about localization solutions and how the costs are now it costs a fraction of time and money, both. There were engagement barriers that we solved for, with much more controlled outputs, and being able to create the outputs exactly how we envisioned them. We spoke about consistency across time, across geographies, across people, accents, using a centralized platform for collaborative use cases. And the last one spoke about compliance and how to think about it, and to partner with only those providers who have ethics as a first, second, third priority. All right, so that was a short introduction to what we're doing at Murf. Open to any questions that you guys might have on what we do, or anything beyond speech as well. We of course work in a lot of other areas of AI. And we are at booth 503. So if you would like to visit us, we can give you a nice quick demo to figure out what are the needs that your company has and how we can help you best solve for those. So I'll just open the session for questions. Some questions? No mind.
Yeah. Switch it on.
Hello, sir.
Test. Hi, thank you. Great presentation. Question about the AI voice pace. So I've experienced from Azure to OpenAI and others, and there's random pace issues when you generate the content, and I was wondering, if you could speak to that. Have you run into that with yours?
Is that uneven pace or just too fast?
So it'll be inconsistent pace within a given sentence. So it'll start talking like this and then suddenly speed up and then suddenly slow down, and there's no explanation as to why it happens.
I have an explanation and I have a solution as well. So the explanation is simple. Most of these models, the ones that come out of OpenAI, for example, have been trained on conversational speech. And human conversations are very uneven. When you do those recordings and you train your models, it's all about what went into the model. The inconsistency comes from the recording setup. And we have that solved because we do those recordings with our own voice actors in a booth. We tell them how you should really be doing this. And the objective is that it's narration. If the objective is to be very conversational, like how two humans would speak to each other, that's a slightly different objective. So you're kind of like using the wrong tool for the wrong purpose. If you're looking for consistent, professional narration, you want to use something like what we provide in our narration styles. Obviously, we also provide a conversational style, but for us, that's a controllable parameter. For most providers who scale up quite fast in multiple languages, didn't actually do the groundwork of building the linguistics layer and all of those, you'll find this as a fault. That there's not enough control with the styles that you're using, and that's what causes the pace issues. But yeah, you could check it out. Let me know if you find them. I'll be happy to fix them if you really spot something.
Thank you.
A couple of questions. When you talked about how you can translate different parts of a sentence and use the Collier example, or Collier, is there an ability for the software to identify that, or does a human have to do that time and time again? And then also, how does the tool handle industry-specific terms or jargon?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first question, yes, there's a way. When you switch a locale, you can actually add that to your dictionary. It's just like any other pronunciation dictionary. All you're doing now is you're supplying an additional locale to it. Earlier you were adjusting pronunciation with an IPA or with an alternate spelling. Now you're just additionally saying IPA but French. Just like that, you share it with your team. Once you have it configured, they could literally go to their library and say apply to all my projects, and they could do that. So the sharing and collaborative aspect is definitely there. The second question was around
industry-specific and jargon.
Yeah. So this is a good one. So we have a lot of clients in healthcare, for example, Baptist Health. That's a tricky one. So we constantly work towards evaluating our systems for pronunciation accuracies. And the way that works is we go with high-frequency words first, those that are more likely to appear in healthcare. And so those are sort of ongoing efforts that we do to evaluate our systems. Of course, if you do encounter something, you can obviously fix it. And that's another thing that you don't find in a lot of tools. The ability to adjust things, the ability to fix things on your own. All of that comes with the controllability that you put in. But top 2 to 3 industry verticals, we are continuously doing efforts from our side as well, that it gets it right, the difficult ones. But most often than not, it will pronounce something in the most obvious way. Sometimes humans just don't pronounce it in an obvious way, but you have the control in there.
So follow up to that. So you mentioned that you have the ability to fix it, right? So how does that happen and remain in the same voice?
Yes, you can fix it. So to fix it, there's something called IPA. It's International Phonetic Alphabet. That's just, think of it as writing English, but not in English alphabets, but something else that's much more close to the voice, how something is spoken. So you could use that. That's the more advanced way of doing this. A simpler way is try to adjust the spelling itself, right? If you want to stretch some places, you could. If you want to stretch the E's, you could write double E's, things like that. So there are some techniques you could do that. But the more accurate, the right way is actually to fix the IPA symbol for it, and we actually provide you the default IPA for every word. So when you select a word and try to adjust its pronunciation, the first suggestion there, which is written in IPA notation, is what we are using, and we have predicted this word is. You could make slight tweaks to it. So it needs some help, but beyond that, we already have our support team. You could actually just ping them, this doesn't sound right, and they'll do it for you. That's a service free of cost. We provide all our customers.
Another challenge that we have, sorry, I'm hogging the microphone. These guys could use the exercise, I'm sure. stand around all day, but we have some translation issues with like grammar, right? So if I've got folks who are in Mauritius, for example, and they're writing in English and then we're trying to, or they're writing in another language maybe, or they're writing in English and then we have to translate that into multiple languages, their grammar or in English, because that's not their first language, right? So how does this solve for things like grammar or punctuation and those types of things when it's not your first language?
Yeah, but that's not specific to translation. I think that's your original content being written in English, which is poorly structured. And okay, yeah, got it. So that's a task for LLMs, right? That's like everyone's doing a rephrase, really. I mean, and there are so many Chrome add-ons and plugins that you just plug in a ChatGPT plugin into it and actually rephrase it. We are actually working also on internal tooling to provide that as an AI assistant. You could click and rephrase things. Currently, yes, we don't have exactly that feature that you fix my grammar. We don't have that, but just because there's so many solutions already available. One thing to note though there is, which comes to my mind is, even if your grammar is right, sometimes what you're writing is very verbose or something that is good for reading, but not something you can actually voice it well. The structure is very pedantic or something that you can write, but you can't really speak it that well. You want to be a little bit more fluent when you're, so that's a little bit of a learning curve there. What kind of text you write that works well in audio? Not everything sounds great when you actually listen to something. So that's a little bit of learning curve there. Yeah, we don't have a curation service yet where we can help you with that. But yeah, I think AI rephrasing is the way to go. So,
okay, and sorry, last question, I promise, and then look at these little fine folks. I don't know, Scott, you know me. Once you put a microphone in my hand, Len is at karaoke too. Okay, so my last question is for the video translation, the example that you said, does it recognize the voice from the video, or do you need to provide it with a script?
To copy the voice, you mean, right?
Copy the
yeah,
voice.
It does. So if you have two speakers, it will sound like the exact two speakers in the other language.
And then it does it from listening to the audio of that file as opposed to having to write a script, for an example.
Audio, I mean.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to describe a voice. It just works.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
No problem.
Right up to there.
Hi. Great presentation, by the way. One of my questions is regarding the translation in the same sentence. For example, if you want to say a Spanish word, can we select different Spanish accents, for example, and then continue in English?
Of course, yeah, that's the demo I made. And you could have a sentence with 5 different languages, each phrase in a different language. It's your choice whether you want to sound Spanish or you want a non-Spanish English person speaking that word for you.
Okay.
Completely controllable. Just select the word,
Cool.
switch the language. It'll sound like the same person and the fluency would be maintained. It's not like abruptly speaking one word. It's fluent and it switches languages.
Cool. And are all these features that you mentioned here available for all the type of licenses that we can get with you, or it's just specific?
When you say all the speeches, you mean like all the voices? All the voices are available in all the tiers, yes. The ability to switch languages. I think multi-native we have in enterprises right now.
Currently
we can talk through it. We'll talk through it. I will definitely, it's free to try. Definitely try it out. But I'm not sure on the specifics right now on the plans, but we can go through it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
She's been waiting.
Thank you. A couple of questions.
Yeah.
The lady in the back in the blue mentioned transcription. How about subtitling? Do you offer subtitles in different languages? So if the video is voiced over in Mandarin, but then somebody wants to read the subtitles in German, as an example.
Yeah.
My other question was, how about, we talked a lot about multilingual or multi-native. How about typically in training videos, you have multiple people. Let's say they do training around a table with 4 or 5 different people, different accents, different gender. Can you support multiple languages in one video, as an example? And then also, is English always the source?
The last one is a very good question. But yes, all of that supported. You want a conversation in 5 people, everyone's speaking different language, who cares? Yes, you could. Everything is a text block. You pick actors that you want from a collection of voices. You switch them, you can have them have a conversation in different accents. They can talk to each other. All of that's really the tool is built for that. The other question was around multilingual.
One more subtitling.
Subtitling, of course, we provide. So there are two modes of subtitling. One is if you have a photo shoot, so if you've done a production video, then you go to dub for that. In dubbing, you provide transcription and then you have subtitling. Or if you're creating your content from scratch in Murf Studio, where you're providing a text yourself, there's no video production in picture, there as well you get subtitles in the output video. You could choose whether you want, in fact we have choices in terms of whether you want to export as SRT, VTT, you want to embed it in the video itself, like you could actually burn them in the video if you want, or you can keep them separate, get all of that.
And the third one is English
Yeah,
as a source.
that's a very good one. So, all translation technology in the world goes to English. And the reason is there isn't enough cross-lingual data available in the world to train the models of going from French to German directly. It's just the lack of data that, but because LLMs are trained on all pairs together, they have the ideas that when you go from this language to another, that's the big breakthrough that's happened with LLMs. If you're using traditional translation engines, the clouds that whatever they provide, Google Translate, most of them were trained on pair of languages. The LLMs, because they are general in their solutioning, they understand these nuances across the language, even those techniques haven't seen any other pairs. It's just how it's built. So the models are getting better at this, but English is the source, and you do have gender issues, for example. English doesn't have, Spanish has, all the language nuances do come in. One of the ways we solve that today in Murf Dub is actually listen to the voice. So we do gender detection from the input source audio itself. So we know it's a female speaking, even though your text doesn't tell us that. Transcription cannot be used to predict the gender, right? Because English doesn't always have gender obviously in there. But we use that technique directly from the audio. So if you're doing a video localization, it's a completely solved problem. If you're only doing text to text, it's a harder one.
Thank you.
Yeah. That is a good question.
Thank you. Is it easy to have the same voice emoting differently? Like I can start angry and end happy.
It's a drop down.
Yeah. Okay. Simple. Yes.
Yeah, we have at least 10 to 15 styles. In fact, we've gone beyond emotions. We now catalog things as, whether it's a documentary, you're trying to do news, these are like, can't even describe them as emotions anymore. It's like, what kind of content you're working on, we've gone that deep. We're going to have a bunch of demos on our booth as well, you can listen to them. There's a documentary one which I really like, feel like it's Attenborough really at your desk. Without his voice, obviously, but the style's there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I have a question about the Say It My Way feature. So some context, we used a competitor of yours for a while to train it on my voice. Yes. So I spent like 30 hours of my audio, it replicated my voice beautifully. Worked great, but our legal department came back and said my voice is PII, you can't use it. So that all got put on the kibosh, and all the standard AI voices, some of them are pretty good, some of them are mediocre, depending on the company you're using. And the problem we have is with enunciation of words. It just doesn't always match the style we want. So I'm viewing it to Say It My Way. Can I train it on my voice? Let's say I feed it a couple hours of my audio, and then it recognizes my patterns, or does it only mimic specific audio clips?
I have an innovative solution for your problem. So Say It My Way is at an audio clip level. It's not training on your voice at all. You actually don't do any training on your data anyways without your consent. So it's going to copy your pronunciation. It's going to not copy your because the objective there was to not have accent leak. For example, let's say you're Australian, you want to direct an American voice, you could do that with it. It's not going to sound Australian, it's going to stick to the native voice. So it doesn't exactly copy your pronunciation, but it does copy your prosody. So what that would mean is, if you have stressed on certain words, you've paused at certain locations, it's going to copy the pitch contour of it. So it's going to copy exactly how you're saying something. So
But
it's
I
going to
still
do
have
that.
to
But
record
it,
it first
yeah.
every time.
But it's at an utterance level, like.
At that point, I'll just do my own narration.
Yeah, you're pretty much doing your. That's only like if you want to tweak a few things. If you're not happy with the entire thing, that's not going to work for you. For that, we can solve that problem, the PII problem that you have. That's again, you won't find a provider who can do that. Which is we can take your data, but not produce a clone out of it. We can use it to only understand the prosody that you use generally. So it will be skin of our actors. It will sound like someone else, not like you, in terms of the pitch, timbre, personality. The identity is not yours, but the entire style of speaking is yours.
Based on license.
That's possible. That's
Okay.
possible. Yes.
That's-
So then, yeah.
That's
so,
what I'm looking for.
yeah. So it's yeah. You don't have the PII problem. It's nobody your identity.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This was really great questions. I was really impressed with the questions.
Do you only use AI for translation, or do you have a human component that edits after the AI does its work?
That's a choice. That's a choice. So within Murf Studio, we don't use humans at all. It's completely self-service. You can use your team to fix things. Within Murf Dub, because it's meant for production quality things, like we have really spent on your video shoot level sort of things, and the assumption is you don't have teams. There, it's provided as an optional service, a QA service, when we employ humans after the machines have done their job. There's a QA service which checks, validates, everything's in place, pronunciation, the delivery, everything is checked. That is provided as an additional service.
So basically, you just facilitate with another agency or a freelancer to do that work?
We have a network of freelancers, yes, globally, because we need them for other things. They do a lot of linguistic work for us. We also use them for translations.
And I think lastly, do we always have to go to your platform to upload our content, or do you have, I see API on there, do you have an API to integrate into our services so that we can pull all your samples into our other platform?
We have an API. It may not be entirely as powerful as the studio, because the studio obviously has UI elements, you need UI sometimes to make it work. But all the basic things that we covered, like multilingual would be there. You could switch locales, those things exist. Yes, there's an API, you could purchase them. You don't have to purchase studio, you could just buy the API if you need to do that.
There you go. Quick question, follow up to this gentleman. The, where you would hire from your network, is that project-based or part of your licensing, or do you buy a certain amount? Like, how does that part work?
It's higher.
Yeah, so like you said, he's done, yes. Like,
Translator?
That's right, yeah. So for somebody to read through your stuff,
Yes.
to make sure that it sounds right and you're not saying something crazy in translation, like you see those signs online or whatever. Like, that's actually right. Is that project-based? Is that so price per project that you hire that freelancer, or do you buy a bulk of the things, or is it included in licensing? Yeah.
Yeah, from our side, it's a permanent network. They're getting something hourly. From your lens, it's based on a credit system. So it's just based on the duration of the audio that you're uploading. The duration of the video is proportionate to that. Definition of project is not really clear there. It's just credits based on if you are creating a 1 hour content, 10 languages, that's 10 into 1 into something. So it's proportionate to that.
Yeah.
Hello. I know that you showed that you have like a kind of integration with PowerPoint.
Yes.
What are other like integrations you guys offer?
Yeah, you could go to Canva. We have something for Canva. We have something for Google Slides.
Captivate.
Activate, yeah.
Captivate.
Yes. Adobe Captivate, yes. You could use Adobe Captivate. Actually, Captivate works with Windows voices. So what we actually built is actually a very generic solution. You could install the voices as a Windows voice. What that means is it also becomes available in your Chrome. It becomes available in your Firefox. And in Adobe Captivate as well. So we have those. Anything in particular you're looking for? Any integration that you build for you?
Not at the moment. I was just wondering.
Anything else to mind?
Or with Adobe, maybe? I don't know if you have like an integration.
Which Adobe Pro?
Like After Effects or Premiere Pro?
With Premiere Pro, it's possible. It's possible. Yeah, it can be done.
Premiere Pro is on our map. for sure.
Yeah.
We're building something for
Express.
Adobe Express. That's something we are already working on. So anything that comes to mind, we can ask, we can build. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you're talking about your roadmap. Do you have any thoughts or ideas how you may be able to support live translation for in-person programming?
So that's like a webinar setup.
Webinar,
As you
live
speak.
meeting, anything like that?
Yeah. We'd like to chat about it a little bit more with you. We don't have it yet on the roadmap, but we can figure out something. It's not beyond the realm of what we can put on the roadmap for sure. Yeah,
Alright.
we'd love to speak a little bit more on the use case and see if we have more such customers, build something.